Hey there, I'm Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. In today's video, I'm going to be doing my January wrap-up. We're going to talk about all the books that I read in January and what I thought about them. So if I'm honest, this month has been kind of a mixed bag. I started off really sick, so then I didn't want to read anything. And then I was like, oh, I should probably read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame before the next one comes out. And that was a whole thing. I got a bit burnt out. And then I finished 4 books on the 31st of January. It's been a whole ride. And you're here with me. So before we get started on the books that I read this month, I just want to say that I read Onyx Storm, but I'm going to be talking about it at the very end of this video, so if you don't want any spoilers for Onyx Storm at all, then you can just close the video early, because it will be the last book that I talk about in this wrap-up. Okay, so let's get going. The first book that I picked up this month was actually a Christmas present from my brother and his girlfriend, and that's How to Tell If Your Cat Is Plotting to Kill You. It's a fun little comic that just has a lot of cat shenanigans in it, and it was really cute and fun. To be honest, this was just a really easy thing to start the year with, and it's not anything special. I only gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but it was fun enough, and it definitely made me smile. This mug was also a present from my brother and his girlfriend. I feel like they know me quite well. So next up I read a book called Sleigh Bells and Slaughter by Alina Jacobs. Now I actually started this one back in December, which you can probably tell from the fact that it's definitely a Christmas book. And reading a Christmas book in January is not really conducive towards like 5-star reading experience, because by that point in time it's not the vibe. We're not in Christmas time anymore, so it feels a little bit off. And I had trouble with this book. I think that is why it took me so long to read it in December, and I kept putting it down and not picking up, and then I was like, well, I have to finish it in January because there's no way I'm stretching this out into February. It's not gonna happen. So I ended up finishing it, and I didn't love this book. I really wanted to, because the whole premise is like a romance between a black cat goth girl and a golden retriever fireman, and they're investigating a murder together, which sounds really great. I didn't love it though. I just feel like they didn't really have any chemistry, and then they would go from one minute where it seemed like she hated him, and then they were doing stuff together that just didn't really work for me, and then they would go back to hating each other, and I was like, I don't understand this chemistry. There was something about it that just didn't work, and like all the side characters and the main murder plot was just like, it wasn't for me. I ended up rating this one 2 out of 5 stars. I was quite disappointed because I had high hopes for it. Then next up I did a buddy read with Emily from Novell Novels, and we read The Wedding Witch by Erin Sterling. This is book 3 in the X-Hex series. I can't remember what that series is actually called, but the first book's the X-Hex. And this was fun. It was kind of a time travel, witchy, forced proximity romance, and I enjoyed it. I do think it was really fast, and it definitely could have been longer. I think I would have enjoyed it more if it was longer. I also think it was a little bit simple. I don't know, I feel like it could have been fleshed out and like just enhanced a little bit more, and it would have done this book quite a good service if it had been. I also listened to the audiobook of this, and I feel like that did affect my reading experience, because there were Welsh accents in this one, which hadn't been in the previous one, and it would come and go. So there would be like certain moments where I could listen to it really on like 3.5 times speed, and then times when I'm like, nope, can't understand what you're saying, you're talking way too fast for me. And I have Scottish grandparents, so I know what it's like to understand someone who talks really fast in an accent, but like, I could not understand what this woman was saying. So I was like, just slow down for when these people are speaking, and it became like really annoying to me, just as personally as a reader. And like, I know that's my own fault because I listen so fast, but like, I also get bored if I turn an audiobook down to like when people talk like this. I just can't do it. So, you know, here we are. Problems of my own making. Having said all that, I ended up rating it 4 out of 5 stars because I did really enjoy it. It was fun, and it was like a very cute, I want to say conclusion. I don't know if this series is going to continue, because it was kind of like 3 brothers being in a romance, so I feel like now we've run out of brothers. I don't think there's going to be any more. I don't know if it's finished. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. So next up I picked up Guava Flavored Lies by J.J. Arias, and this one is a book that I picked up purely because it was included in my Audible subscription, and it was the prompt for the Buzzword Readathon. So I was like, not really having high expectations of this. However, I was pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed this book. It's a sapphic romance, but it's also like Cuban pastry wars about 2 rival families whose grandparents started these like rival restaurants when they came to America, and they both claimed that the other stole from them. And it's about the 2 daughters who are running their respective businesses. They have like a rivals to lovers thing, and it's just A+. I really enjoyed it. And it's just really good. I really like the romance, and I don't feel like it dragged out any specific part of it for too long, and it felt like there was enough time to deal with the fact that these families had to adjust to the relationship between these two women, and it was just great. I really, really enjoyed it. Both of the main characters are fun in different ways. They have very different personalities, but the way that they work off of each other it's just really fun. You can see why they would probably not like each other, but like it makes them work, and it's just really fun. So I ended up rating this one 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely recommend it. Then I decided to finally finish Hot Vampire Next Door Season 5, which is the final book in the Hot Vampire Next Door series. And this is a series that I've really enjoyed, and I really enjoyed the first few books in the series. This last book, however, was a giant disappointment. I was gutted by how it ended, because originally I picked this series up because it's about a woman who lives in this like town where like paranormal creatures and everything coexist with humans, and everybody's like cool coexisting, and it was a romance, it was steamy, it was great, right? This book was just too much plot. Plot escalates throughout this book, and I just feel like where we ended was not where we started, in the sense of the total vibe of there's a hot vampire that lives next door and it's gonna get smutty was just like gone. And they were in a relationship, but it was just mainly about this Fae war, and I didn't care. Like, I really, really didn't care, and I'm just reading it just to get to the end. That's just not what you want. So I ended up rating this one 2 out of 5 stars, and I'm really disappointed. And I know this is probably like a personal preference thing, but like, I don't know. If I was ever to reread this series, I'd probably just stop after book 3, to be honest, because I just didn't really gel with 4 or 5 anywhere near as much as I gelled with like the earlier stuff that was mainly about the vampires. Oh well. Then next up I did a buddy read with Emily from Novell Novels, and it was The Tyrant's Tomb by Rick Riordan. This is The Trials of Apollo book 4, and basically I was supposed to have read this in December and I didn't, but I have now, and I really enjoyed it actually. I won't say too much about the plot because it is book 4 in this series, but I will say it's heavily centered on action that takes place in Camp Jupiter and like an attack there. It didn't feel like there was not going to be any consequences to what was happening, and I really enjoyed that. I liked the adventure, but I do think it took a long time to get there. The end of the book was the best part of the book for me, but there were some characters in it I really enjoy, like returning characters, and I was happy to see them. So yeah, I ended up rating this one 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so let's talk about this. I reread Fourth Wing because I needed to reread Fourth Wing to continue, because I didn't really remember what happened with that. I don't have that problem now because I've made recap videos for this one and the next book I'm going to talk about, so that when the next book comes out I won't have to reread these books. Not that I don't want to, because I really enjoyed these books, but like, they're long. I got burnt out when I read these and made those videos, so of course myself paid in doing that. Again, problems of my own making. What's wrong with me this year? Anyway, Fourth Wing. Militaristic dragon school romantasy. Very fun. I like the consequences of all the things that were happening. It feels like people are in real danger, and I really like that. And I just love Violet and Xaden. This is just a really good book and I enjoyed it a lot. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. Currently my favourite in the series. Then finally, after putting this on 10 million TBRs at this point, I read Iron Flame. Hooray! Hooray! Woo! Yeah, I read Iron Flame and I really liked it, which was really funny because I know a lot of people didn't love this book and they thought that it had some major issues, and it does have some issues. Like, there's a lot going on in this book. An awful lot that maybe could have been condensed or just cut out entirely. I don't know. But I still enjoyed it. I felt like I was going on a ride in this book and I liked where it went. There was one thing that happened in this book that like traumatized me, but that's because I hate animal death. And if you know at the end of the book what is happening, then you know. I also would like to throw out that I picked up a theory from Fourth Wing and I was like, yeah, I think this is happening, and then I was like, oh, okay, that's why it's not happening, but I was right. Confirmed in this book, so I'm holding on to that. If you want to know what that is, just like comment and I will tell you. I just don't want to spoil anything in the videos. I do have some complaints about this book. I don't really enjoy when the two main characters are separated from each other and they're like kept apart, and that was like a major thing at the beginning of this book, and I was like, oh, why is this happening? Can we just not, please? Can we just get over this? But that just frustrated me. I also found that this book kind of read a little bit more young adulty in places, and I think that mostly comes down to the fact that Kat is there, and I just didn't enjoy how Kat came into this book. I like her later, but like at the beginning and the middle, whenever she comes into it, I'm just like, no. We don't need this. We don't need to be behaving this way, but we are behaving this way, and I didn't enjoy that, so Anyway, I rated it 4 out of 5 stars, and I did overall really enjoy this book. Just there are like some things that I definitely would have cut out or changed about it. So let's get on to the main event, and this is your warning if you don't want to know anything at all about Onyx Storm, because I'm going to be talking about Onyx Storm now. Have a nice day if you're going. So let's get into this. Onyx Storm book 3 obviously continues on from the cliffhanger we were all left on in Iron Flame, which like sucked, and I'm really glad that I didn't have to wait for that one. Obviously I have to wait now that this book is finished for potentially 2+ years for the next book. Can't wait for that. But this book has like a really weird structure to me. It's very straightforward, but the beginning third of this book is really slow for me. I just felt like we were dragging out being at Baskaya for some reason. And like a lot of that could have been cut down because it only really started getting super interesting to me when we went to the islands. We went on the island road trip. Let's see if we can find Andana's dragon family. That whole trip was really interesting. There were some really good bits to that and some sad bits as well. And I will also always love this because it's where Riddick gets to shine. I love Riddick. He's the best character in this book. He's carrying this book. He's just the soul of the party. Riddick is the best. I really liked the big fight at the end. I definitely feel like I want to reread it though because I think there were a lot of things that I potentially could have missed because there was a lot happening all at once and I kind of want to reread it and know, but I'll leave it a little bit, come back to it with like a fresh head, and then I think I'll be able to come up with some more theories. I got some wild theories. Everybody's coming up with crazy theories and I'm really enjoying watching what everyone is suggesting might be happening at the end of this book, the answers that we don't have. I will say I loved Xaden and Violet in this book because I feel like they finally got to a point where they were like, right, we can communicate with each other and we will just love each other entirely, and obviously that's kind of because of what's happening to Xaden in this book, but like I just want them to be happy and I'm gonna be real sad if it doesn't pan out that way. Also, Violet in this book is just in her Aelin Galathinius phase. She's just going around being completely badass and taking charge and I cannot fault her for it. I absolutely adored her in this book. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was a close second for Fourth Wing. I just don't think it had quite the edge to it to make it a 5-star, but I really enjoyed it and I feel like I'll really enjoy it when I reread it as well. But I do find when I read books when they first come out, I wonder if my feelings towards them are like slightly biased because of that, so I'm always really interested to go back and see books that I read during the hype. This is why I try not to do it, but honestly there's no way to avoid spoilers for a book like this, so it's like you read it or you get spoiled, so I'll just reread it before the next book comes out and we'll see how I feel about it then. Okay, so those are all the books that I read in January. If you like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!